What if the man everyone dismisses as a failure, the one they laugh at in the street, is secretly the king of an empire they can only dream of? What if the broken-down machine he rides isn't a symbol of his poverty, but a monument to a love he can never forget? Leo Vance felt the cold rain begin to slick the worn leather of his jacket, each drop a tiny, mocking tap on his shoulder. He pulled his 1998 Harley-Davidson Softail to the curb in front of the gleaming glass tower of Thorn Capital, the engine rumbling with a low, weary growl that mirrored the ache in his own bones. He was just another faceless delivery guy, a ghost in a city of titans, racing to drop off a lukewarm lunch before it became a cold complaint. As he swung his leg over the cracked saddle, a sharp, braying laugh cut through the city's hum. Seriously? They let that piece of junk park out front. Marcus Thorne, CEO of the monolith behind him, stood under the building's massive stone awning, flanked by two sycophantic junior executives in identical navy suits. Thorne was a man sculpted from arrogance and expensive tailoring, his silver hair perfectly coiffed, his smile a weapon of casual cruelty. He gestured with a dismissive flick of his wrist at Leo's bike. Look at it. It's a relic. Probably held together with rust and desperation. That bike is trash, his cronies chuckled on cue, their laughter as polished and empty as the marble lobby behind them. Leo ignored them, his focus on the insulated bag. He had a job to do. His daughter, Lily, needed him to do it. But Thorne wasn't finished. He stepped forward, his $1,000 shoes stopping inches from the Harley's faded fender. Tell me, buddy, he said, his voice dripping with condescension, do you get paid by the mile or by the tear you cry yourself to sleep at night? A single dad on that thing. It's just pathetic, the word hung in the damp air. Pathetic. Leo's knuckles whitened on the bag's strap. He could feel the eyes of passers-by, the pity, the amusement. He could also feel the gaze of a woman standing near the revolving doors, her expression not of ridicule, but of a quiet, troubled anger. Her name was Clara Sterling, an architect from the 27th floor, and she saw this little drama unfold almost every week. She saw Thorne's sneering face and the delivery man's rigid silence. Leo finally looked up, his eyes, gray and stormy like the sky, meeting Thorne's for a brief, electric moment. There was no anger in them, no shame. There was something else. Something old and heavy. It gets me where I need to go, Leo said, his voice quiet but firm, a stone unmoved by the crashing wave of Thorne's ego. Thorne scoffed. To the next slum apartment, I'm sure. Do yourself a favor and sell it for scrap. Might get you enough for a decent meal for that kid of yours. He turned to his associates. Let's go. The smell of failure is ruining my appetite. As they swept into the building, Leo took a deep breath, the rain now falling in earnest, plastering his dark hair to his forehead. He delivered the food, got the signature, and walked back out into the downpour, his boots splashing in the growing puddles. He didn't look at his bike with shame. He ran a hand over the cool, wet metal of the gas tank, his fingers tracing the faint outline of a painted lily, now almost invisible beneath years of wear. It wasn't trash. It was a promise. It was the last thing he and his wife, Isabella, had built together before she was gone. It was the only piece of his old life he had allowed himself to keep. The ride home to his small, two-bedroom apartment was a blur of traffic and rain-streaked lights. The dingy building stood in stark contrast to the opulence of Thorn Tower, but inside, it was a sanctuary. The moment he opened the door, a small whirlwind of blonde hair and boundless energy launched itself at his legs. Daddy. Lily, his 7-year-old daughter, hugged him tightly, burying her face in his damp jeans. You're all wet, she giggled. The sky was feeling a little sad today, he said, scooping her into his arms. The weariness of the day melted away under the warmth of her embrace. His world wasn't the mockery of men like Thorne, it was this tiny, perfect universe contained within the four walls of their home. The apartment was sparse but clean, the walls covered not with expensive art, but with Lily's vibrant crayon drawings of smiling suns, lopsided castles, and futuristic motorcycles with wings. Later that evening, as he tucked her into bed, she looked up at him with serious, curious eyes. Daddy, why don't we get a new bike? A shiny one. Like the ones in my drawings. He sat on the edge of her bed, smoothing her hair back from her forehead. He could buy 1,000 shiny bikes. He could buy the entire company that made them. The thought was a distant echo from another life, a life of boardrooms, billion-dollar contracts, and the crushing weight of a legacy. A life he had fled to protect her. "This bike," he began softly, his voice full of a history she couldn't yet understand, "this bike has memories, sweet pea. It remembers Mommy's laugh when we first got the engine to start. It remembers the day we brought you home from the hospital, all bundled up like a little burrito. It's not just a machine. It's part of our story." Lily nodded, accepting his answer with the simple faith of a child. "Okay, Daddy. As long as it has good memories," she yawned, her eyes fluttering closed. He kissed her forehead, the familiar scent of her shampoo a balm to his soul. This was why he endured the scorn. For her quiet sleep, for her innocent world, for the right to be just Daddy. He stood in the quiet of the living room, looking out the window at the rain-washed city. On his worn coffee table sat a single, sleek black tablet, a ghost of his past. He never touched it. But tonight, his hand hovered over its dark screen. The words of Marcus Thorne echoed in his mind. Pathetic. Trash. Failure. They were just words. But they were chipping away at the simple peace he had fought so hard to build. He had to remember that his retreat was a choice, not a defeat. He was Leo Vance, delivery guy. But he was also Leonidas Vance, the phantom founder of Vance Dynamics, a titan of innovation who had vanished from the world 5 years ago, leaving a multi-billion-dollar empire to run on his protocols. And sooner or later, the world had a way of pulling its ghosts back into the light. The next day, the sky was a bruised purple, threatening more rain. Leo had another delivery for Thorne Tower. As he pulled up, he braced himself for another round of casual cruelty. But instead of Thorne, he saw Clara Sterling waiting by the entrance, a steaming paper cup in her hand. She offered it to him with a small, hesitant smile. "I figured you could use this," she said. "It's just coffee." He was taken aback. In 5 years, no one in these glass towers had ever looked at him as anything more than a service provider. He took the cup, his calloused fingers brushing against hers. "Thank you," he said, the words feeling inadequate. "You didn't have to do that, I know," she replied, her gaze direct and kind. She tucked a stray strand of auburn hair behind her ear. I hate bullies. What Mr. Thorne says, it's not right." They stood in a comfortable silence for a moment, the city's noise fading into the background. She saw past the worn jacket and the tired lines around his eyes. She saw a quiet strength, a profound decency that Thorne, with all his wealth, could never possess. "He doesn't bother me," Leo lied, but his voice was softer now, warmed by her simple act of kindness. "Some people can only feel big by making others feel small." Clara nodded, a flicker of admiration in her eyes. "You have a daughter, right? I've seen her picture on your phone's lock screen. She's beautiful." A genuine smile finally broke through Leo's guarded exterior, transforming his face. "Lily. She's my whole world." Their conversation was brief, but it planted a seed. For Leo, it was a reminder that kindness still existed in the world he now inhabited. For Clara, it was a confirmation that her instincts were right. The deliveryman with the old Harley was more than he seemed. Their small coffee meetings became a quiet ritual. A few words exchanged each day, a shared moment of humanity in the cold, corporate world. He learned she was an architect who dreamed of designing sustainable community housing. She learned he was a widower doing his best to raise a bright, happy little girl. He never spoke of his past, and she never pried, but the connection between them grew, a fragile bridge built on empathy and mutual respect. Marcus Thorne noticed. He saw the way Clara smiled at the delivery guy, the way she waited for him. It infuriated him. In his world, status was everything. A woman like Clara, brilliant and beautiful, should be focused on a man like him, not on a nobody. His resentment festered, and one afternoon, it boiled over. Leo was walking through the lobby, balancing a large order, when Thorne deliberately stepped in his path. "Watch where you're going, grease monkey," Thorne sneered, shoving Leo's shoulder hard. The bags tumbled from Leo's grasp, sending containers of soup and salad skittering across the polished marble floor. A collective gasp echoed through the lobby. Thorne just laughed. "Looks like you'll be paying for that out of your pathetic salary. I'm going to make a call. I'll have you fired. People like you don't belong in a place like this." Leo looked down at the mess, then up at Thorne. The old, cold calm settled over him, the practiced control of a man who had once commanded rooms filled with the most powerful people on the planet. He didn't say a word. He simply began to clean up the mess. But something had shifted. A line had been crossed. This wasn't just about him anymore. Thorne had threatened his ability to provide for Lily. The peace he had cherished was proving to be a fragile illusion. The real crisis arrived not in the form of a bully, but a phone call from the school nurse. Lily had collapsed. At the hospital, the diagnosis was a punch to the gut. A rare autoimmune disorder, one that required an experimental treatment from a specialist in Switzerland. The cost was astronomical, the waitlist a death sentence. Leo's world tilted on its axis. The money meant nothing, he had more than he could ever spend, but accessing it meant re-entering the world he had abandoned. It meant becoming Leonidas Vance again. That night, sitting by Lily's hospital bed, watching her sleep, he made the choice. There was no choice. He pulled out the black burner phone he hadn't touched in 5 years and made a single call. A voice, crisp and professional, answered on the first ring. "Mr. Vance. Is that you?" "It's me, Julian," Leo said, his voice a low command. "I need my jet. And I need you to get Dr. Alamand on the line. Tell him it's an emergency." "My daughter," there was no hesitation. "Consider it done, sir." Welcome back. The next day, Clara found him at the hospital, his face etched with a worry that terrified her. He told her about Lily's diagnosis, his voice thick with emotion. He left out the part about the private jet and the world-renowned specialist. "I don't know what I'm going to do," he said, the lie tasting like ash in his mouth. He hated deceiving her, the one person who had shown him genuine kindness. Clara's response was immediate and fierce. She took his hand, her grip firm and reassuring. "We'll figure it out, Leo. We'll start a fundraiser. I can lend you some money. You are not alone in this." Tears welled in Leo's eyes, real and unexpected. Her offer, her selfless support in the face of what she believed was his destitution, was the most profound gift he had ever received. "Clara," he said, his voice breaking, "you have no idea what that means to me." In that moment, he knew his life as a simple deliveryman was over. But he also knew he had found something real, something worth more than all his hidden billions. He had to tell her the truth. But not yet. First, he had a dragon to slay. The annual Vance Dynamics Tech Summit was the most anticipated event in the industry. It was where the future was unveiled. This year, the company was set to reveal the Ethereum, a revolutionary hyper-electric motorcycle rumored to be decades ahead of its time. The company's reclusive founder, Leonidas Vance, was rumored to be making his first public appearance in 5 years. Marcus Thorne was there, preening in the front row. A potential partnership with Vance Dynamics would cement his status as a visionary investor. He smoothed his tie, scanning the crowd for important faces, completely oblivious to the tectonic plates shifting beneath his feet. A sleek, black Audron, a car from Vance Dynamics' exclusive line, purred to a stop at the entrance. The door opened, and a man stepped out. He was dressed in a bespoke charcoal suit that fit him like a second skin. His hair was neatly styled, his face clean-shaven, revealing a strong jawline. He moved with an effortless confidence, an aura of quiet, unshakable authority. Clara was there, too, having been given a ticket by a client. She watched the man emerge from the car, and her breath caught in her throat. It was Leo. But it was not Leo. It was as if the man she knew had been a shadow, and this was the person casting it. He walked past Marcus Thorne, his gaze fixed on the stage. Thorne, in the middle of boasting to a journalist, glanced over and did a double take. He saw a familiar set of gray eyes, but the context was so impossible, his brain refused to process it. He dismissed it as a fleeting resemblance. The lights dimmed. A hush fell over the massive auditorium. The host walked to the center of the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, for 5 years, he has been a myth, a legend. The visionary who reshaped our world and then vanished. Tonight, he returns. Please welcome the founder and CEO of Vance Dynamics, Mr. Leonidas Vance." Leo walked onto the stage into the bright glare of the spotlights. Clara stared, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. In the front row, Marcus Thorne's face went from smug anticipation to utter, slack-jawed disbelief. The color drained from his face, leaving a pasty, horrified mask. It was him. The delivery guy. The pathetic failure on the trash bike. On stage, Leo was transformed. He spoke with a passion and eloquence that held the entire room captive. He spoke not just of technology, but of purpose. Then, with a theatrical flourish, he unveiled the Ethereum. It was a masterpiece of carbon fiber and polished chrome, looking less like a motorcycle and more like a vehicle from a distant future. "We create machines that are extensions of the human will," Leo said, his voice resonating through the hall. "But a machine is only as good as the heart of the person who rides it. For the past 5 years, I stepped away to remember what truly matters. It isn't wealth or status. It's humility. It's integrity. It's judging a person not by the clothes they wear or the vehicle they drive, but by the kindness in their heart." As he spoke, his eyes found Marcus Thorne in the front row. He didn't name him, he didn't have to. The entire world would know the story by morning. "Some people," Leo continued, his voice dropping to a steely quiet, "believe that making others feel small makes them big. They are mistaken. It only reveals how small they truly are." The humiliation was absolute. Marcus Thorne sat frozen, the weight of 1,000 eyes crushing him. His empire was built on perception, and that perception had just been shattered on the world's biggest stage. Security guards discreetly appeared at his side, and the once mighty CEO was quietly escorted out, his career in ashes. After the thunderous applause faded, Leo scanned the crowd, his eyes searching for only one person. He found Clara standing near the back, her expression a whirlwind of shock, confusion, and something he hoped was understanding. He walked directly to her, ignoring the swarm of executives and reporters. "Clara," he said, his voice now soft, stripped of the CEO's persona. It was just Leo again. "I have so much to explain." He told her everything. About the loss of his wife, the crushing burden of his name, and his desperate need to give Lily a normal life, a life where she was loved for who she was, not for her father's fortune. He told her the old Harley was his last tangible connection to the woman he had lost. "I never meant to lie to you," he finished, his gaze earnest and pleading. "The men you met, the delivery guy, that was the real me. More real than this." She looked at him, at the billionaire visionary and the tired single dad, and saw they were one and the same. She saw the good heart that had been there all along. "Lily," she asked softly. "Is she going to be okay?" A relieved smile touched his lips. "The best doctor in the world is with her. She's going to be fine." He took her hand. "Your kindness, Clara, when I had nothing, you treated me like I was somebody. I think I've been falling in love with you since that first cup of coffee." She didn't hesitate. She stepped forward and kissed him, a kiss that sealed the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Weeks later, the sun was bright and warm. Marcus Thorne was a disgraced footnote in the business pages. Vance Dynamics had a new community outreach program, personally overseen by its star architect, Clara Sterling. And on a winding country road, the low, familiar rumble of a 1998 Harley-Davidson could be heard. Leo was driving, a smiling Clara held him tight from behind, and in a custom-made sidecar, a healthy, laughing Lily pointed at the clouds. He hadn't sold the bike. He never would. It wasn't a symbol of his poverty or his past, but a testament to his journey. It was a reminder that true wealth isn't measured in stock portfolios or superbike fleets, but in love, resilience, and the simple joy of a ride on a sunny afternoon. So, the next time you see someone you're tempted to judge, maybe take a closer look. Because you never know, the person you dismiss today might just be the one who owns the world tomorrow. What hidden strengths are you holding inside you, just waiting for the right moment to be revealed?